On this week's Gridiron Report, we have the first Pistons postseason win in almost 20 years and a mailbag to go along with it for the people, so let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit iron report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The grit iron report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Media. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. And before we get into this great episode we have for the people, let's clap it up for the Pistons getting their first win, their first playoff win in almost 17 years. Congrats to the boys. A big one that coming last night. We record on Tuesday night, so this win is just fresh coming Monday night. And let's just jump right into that. So we got a great episode. We have a mailbag to cover some Pistons stuff, some Lions stuff, some miscellaneous things towards the end of the episode. But let's jump in to the meat of this, and that's the Pistons playoff win. Again, first time in 17 years the Pistons had a playoff win. Going back to then, I think that was Cade was 6 years old, I believe, in that time. But let's start with the first game, right? So Pistons ended up tying the series 1-1. But let's go back to Saturday in Madison Square Garden. The Pistons lose to the New York Knicks 112-123. Overall, what are your thoughts on that game? Because I know I have my thoughts, and I definitely have even more thoughts from game two. But your thoughts on that first game?
Yeah. I mean, overall, I thought that the boys played extremely well, and there's a ton to build on. I loved how physical they were in game one. I loved how physical they were in game two as well. We knew they were going to come out and be physical and play, that smash mouth Detroit style that we know and love and we grew up watching. And I really thought that they brought the energy in game one, in a game where it would have been, pretty easy for them to, lay an egg, first playoff game, and like you said, almost 2 decades, or going for the first playoff win in almost 2 decades, I should say. And there's a lot of pressure on these young players that, the last time that the Pistons won a playoff game, a lot of these players on the Pistons right now, they were only in elementary school, if that. Some of them weren't even that old yet. Ton of pressure, and I thought that they really commanded the game for 3 quarters. They played extremely well. It was really back and forth, especially in that first half. I loved what I saw, especially from guys like Malik Beasley, seemingly time and time again. He was hitting really big threes in game one on Saturday there. Yeah, I did think that it wasn't all perfect. Asar Thompson, although he did have some really good plays, I thought overall he was a bit more mid. Even Cade looked a little bit off. I will say, though, the Asar Thompson spin move bucket, probably the quickest spin move in the history of spin moves. That was sweet. But yeah, 3 quarters, really loved what I saw. Obviously, that 21-0 run, you're just straight up not going to win a game when that happens. And I think that a lot of their playoff inexperience, it really did show in that last quarter. And they got punched in the mouth. The Knicks finally started playing well, and the Pistons really had no rebuttal there, at least not in that first game. So, yeah, a lot to build on. I think, JB in his presser and even, a day after, he was basically quoted saying, there was a lot of good things to build on. We're not really going to harp on a ton of the bad. There was a lot of good that looked like, seemingly they did build on in game two. So overall, I did like what I saw. Would have loved a dub. Obviously would have loved a dub, but yeah, not too bad in game one.
That spin move was so smooth and crisp. It was beautiful. Asar does stuff like that out of nowhere,
Insane.
and you're just like, holy shit, he's so athletic. It's insane. It's so beautiful. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I thought they controlled 3 quarters of that game. And I was going back and forth coming into this game because part of me, I originally thought I think it's going to be a little bit too big of a stage for the boys. Just game one, just going to be too big. They'll settle in throughout the series, but I thought game one, it was going to be too big of a stage. And then leading up right to it, I was talking with a buddy and he asked my prediction, and I kind of flip-flopped at the last second, and it was like, I think they actually are going to come out and punch the Knicks in the mouth, and they're going to steal game one and kind of shock the NBA. And so I was going back and forth, and for the first 3 quarters, they were kind of proving me right. They were really doing really well. They were showing that the stage wasn't too big. They were going, pound for pound with the Knicks and doing really fantastic. And then it just flipped the switch. I don't know if I've seen a momentum switch kind of as quickly at the same time slowly though, it just slowly was a slow kind of dagger, and a 21-0 run. You just can't win any game letting up that big of a run. And so it
Right.
really did show, like, it was a perfect 3 quarters, or a good 3 quarters. And then immediately our inexperience, just showed and reared its ugly head. And then once that starts, then the inexperience shows even more, because someone's got to kind of pull you out of that. And with the inexperience and stuff, it just was too much to kind of fight back. So, like you said,
Big thing for me was turnovers in that first game. I think that really showed that playoff inexperience. I think they were maybe a little bit nervous in that department alone. They were coughing up the ball way too much.
yeah, I thought, like you said, Beasley had a really good game. I thought really all the new additions had a really good game. So you had Tobias, who really put a lot of the playoff hatred towards him to rest when he was coming from the Sixers. Like, that was a huge. All the Sixers fans wanted him out of Philadelphia because he lays, quote unquote, lays eggs in the playoffs. And he
Were
came
the
out
Sixers the
swinging.
problem?
I think they were. I mean,
People are asking. It's the Sixers.
he came out and played fantastic. I think he had 25 points, 8 for 13 rebounds, 5 for 5 or 8 for 13 from the field, 5 for 5 from the free throw line. But then the other new additions also played really well. I thought Tim Hardaway Jr. had a good game. Like you said, Malik Beasley had a good game. All those guys that had the experience, they kind of came to play. Like I said, Tobias with 25, Tim Hardaway with 19. You had Malik Beasley with 20. So, like, the guys that you needed to carry this team in their first playoff game played really well. Unfortunately, as it came down to the fourth quarter, you had the new guns, not playing that well. Like you said, Asar kind of had just a so-so game, finished with 10 and 6. I thought Jalen Duren was actively really bad. He had a minus 20 on his stat sheet. He finished with 7 points and 6 rebounds, which is you're starting big man. You can't not have a double-double, in my opinion. Like you said, Cade just kind of looked off. I don't think he was bad. He was just off. He wasn't his Cade Cunningham self. Finished with 21 points, which isn't bad by any stretch, but like against the Knicks this season, he's averaged 30. At Madison Square Garden, he's averaged 36. Like, that wasn't the Cade we needed. And for 3 quarters of the game, it was enough to get us there. But then obviously they put up 40 in the fourth quarter. We put up 21, and it ended up not being that great. I thought we shot from the three ball really well, 47% from three. We got to the line really well. We won the rebounding game, but we just got destroyed in the paint. Again, Jalen Duren didn't really have that good of a game. And then you already mentioned it, the turnovers. We had 21 turnovers to their 11, so we didn't really turn them over that much. And then we were just really nervous. Yeah, it was 3 quarters of good basketball and one of really, really bad basketball. You had Campaign beating you in the fourth quarter, and when that happens, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I was after the game, I was a little bit conflicted, because in my head I thought, like you said, and like JB Bickerstaff said, like, there's a lot of good to build off there, right? Like, that was a decent game. Like, there's a lot of good, but the other side of me was saying, like, when you play that good for that much majority of the game, you got to steal that game. You can't cough a game like that up at Madison Square Garden against, like, the Knicks, who had one of the most, had one of the best records in the NBA this season. You can't cough a game like that up. And so I was kind of like, are we going to get that chance to steal a game again? So I was kind of going back and forth after that one.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, and especially in a series where you're a 3-1 underdog to win the series, you're a 6 seed versus a 3 seed. Those are the games that if you want to win a series like that and pull this upside off, you win games like that. And yeah, for them to not pull it off, I mean, it was tough. I mean, I was pretty sad after the game was over. But again, it was game one, and there was a ton to build off. So it's not like we were hitting the panic button. And now, obviously, in retrospect, after watching game 2 last night, and seeing that, yeah, the Pistons, they're not just a one-hit wonder and had three quarters of good basketball. That's it. They actually dominated the game basically from start to finish against the Knicks, and at one point had a 15-point lead. I mean, they were absolutely dominating. They couldn't quite hit that dagger to put away the Knicks. We can talk about it, but overall, I loved what I saw from them in game 2. They dominated.
Yeah, let's jump to game 2, because like you said, after game 1, like we came away with the loss. You didn't feel like the sky wasn't falling. You're like, it just going down 1-0 in a game, in a season, or excuse me, series. It's not the end of the world. But game 2, that pressure is, in my opinion at least, was a lot higher. Going down 2-0 is like, I mean, I don't know why. I was sitting there last night. I was watching this game all by myself. My wife had a work event, so it was just me by myself on my couch. We have had playoff Lions over the past 2 seasons. We had playoff Tigers last year. We had essentially playoff Red Wings last year, in which it was kind of like a win towards the end of the season, was win and get in, lose and you're out kind of thing.
Playoffs, so to get into the playoffs.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
They
a playoff.
They were in the play-in. Yeah,
right. It felt exactly. It felt like a play-in. So like we've had that kind of feeling, and we've had Michigan State in the Final Four, Elite Eight. Like we've had a bunch of big time games. I don't know if I have had more stress and like heart palpitations than that game last night. I don't know if it was just because were down 1-0, or if it was because in both games, like you said, we really were dominating, or at least sticking with them and controlling most of the game, and I didn't want to cough that up. I don't know what it was, but I had
Yeah.
so much anxiety the entirety of this game. It was insane.
I'm totally with you. I think I can probably put it into words, at least from my own perspective. One, like you said, game 2 was a must win after coughing up game 1. You can't go back to Detroit down 0-2. So it was a must win for me. And so, yeah, that definitely is increasing some of those heart palpitations that you talked about there for me. And then 2, if you lose that game or you cough it up again, that the narrative is just going to increase that, okay, these Pistons, they still haven't won a playoff game since 2008. It's growing. This record losing streak in the playoffs is continuing to grow. You drop 2 at Madison Square Garden, and then you're thinking, well, shit, maybe we can't beat these guys at all. Maybe we're going to get swept. And so, yeah, I did have those thoughts. We're human. It'd be impossible not to have those. But at the same time, yeah, I thought the boys played so well, and I thought the Knicks kind of played like little bitches. We'll get into that probably a little bit more later on in this pod, but just loved what I saw from the Pistons as far as the physicality and really, playing with that grit that we know and, come to love watching Detroit sports.
Yeah, so Pistons ended up winning 100-94 last night. Again, like I said, first playoff win since 2008, which is 17 years. Cade Cunningham was 6 years old when the last time the Detroit Pistons won a playoff game. Real quick, Kyle, guess who the number 1 scorer for the Detroit Pistons was in that last playoff win that they had 17 years ago?
8. I mean, was it Chauncey?
No
we still had
chance.
Chauncey at the time. Is it Mr. Big Shot?
No, Antonio McDyess led the Detroit Pistons in scoring and rebounds in their game against the Boston Celtics 17 years ago was their last playoff win. So I agree with you. I think that definitely added to the heart palpitations, was like this streak that like Detroit seems to always be on these streaks. Like we got to break it. And so that definitely affected it, but they ended up getting it done. I thought it was very similar to game 1 in that like at least 3/4 of the game, we were comfortably in command. Obviously, game 1 in the fourth quarter, the wheels fell off. We shit the bed, and it went out. It got really bad. This one, I did feel like it was starting to get. I mean, it did. Not just feel. It did get a little bit closer. The Knicks kind of made a run towards the end, like you said. I think we were up by like 13 or something at some point, and then the Knicks ended up cutting it to a 4-point game.
They tied
so
it.
Did they tie it? So it ended up being like, I mean, towards
Did you black out of nervousness? The Knicks tied the game before that Dennis Schroeder 3.
My wife came home and she was like, "What's going on?" It was like right in the middle of the fourth quarter, and I was like, "I can't do this. I can't talk. I don't know what's going on in this game." So there's a very good chance that I blacked out for that part. Luckily, throughout the entirety of the game, I mean, Cade Cunningham came alive. Like we said, 21 points in game 1. Not bad, but not Cade Cunningham. He was back to Cade Cunningham for this game. Finished with 33 points and 12 rebounds, 11 of those coming on the defensive end. So just limiting the Knicks to one shot possessions, which was huge. You mentioned it. The Dennis Schroeder 3-pointer, like we didn't necessarily have that one time to put them away, except for that Dennis Schroeder 3-pointer. That was kind of a dribble handoff. They left him open for a minute. And Dennis had been going back and forth with Jalen Brunson all game. And you mentioned it. We'll get to Jalen Brunson in a few minutes. But Dennis Schroeder, with the absolute dagger of a 3, he had a great game, put up 20 points, was 3 for 5 from the 3-point range. Was that kind of the Robin and Cade Cunningham's Batman that we've talked about, haven't really had? So it was fantastic. I mean, it was so stressful, but the boys got it done.
Yeah, huge. I mean, how much of a spark plug has Dennis Schroeder been ever since he's come over to Detroit? He's been awesome. I mean, really just to take a bit of that pressure off of Cade. Having another ball handler, especially, given the Jaden Ivey injury earlier this season, just being able to have that veteran presence and knowing that, Cade doesn't have to do it all alone. And even in crunch time, you have Schroeder out there. Crunch time in game 1 and in game 2, he's been pretty much doing it since he's been a Piston. He's getting some pretty good minutes, and rightfully so. I mean, he's that veteran ball handler that you really want, and he can make plays. He can facilitate, and he can make huge shots when it counts. And we saw that when the game was tied.
He's bringing the attitude.
Yeah. Oh, the attitude too. Yeah. Going at it with Brunson. I love seeing that. Really. I mean, it seemed like, he was really getting under Jalen Brunson's skin too, which I really liked. Couple more things that I noticed from game 2. It really did seem like Cade, for most of the season, Cade is known as a facilitator just as much, if not more, than he is as a scorer. It seemed like he was really, putting his head down and getting dirty
Yep.
and really, taking shots and getting to the rim, looking to score first versus pass first. And I guess a couple things on that. First of all, I think that it's something that's absolutely needed, especially in the playoffs. And I think JB Bickerstaff has told Cade, like, you need to be more aggressive, you need to be the guy. So I love what I saw there. He wasn't facilitating much, but he was scoring at will, which the Pistons desperately need. So I did like that. I did, however, see that the Knicks were very much queuing on Cade, taking that shot or dribble driving versus passing. And Cade did get doubled at times, and I think it led to a couple turnovers. Not that I'm super worried about that, but probably something just to keep an eye on. I do expect maybe Cade to throw a bit of a changeup and the Pistons to throw a bit of a changeup in Game 3, where Cade is doing a little bit more facilitating. We talked about Hardaway and Beasley being so good in Game 1. They were both pretty shit in Game 2, missing wide open shots. Again, not sounding the alarm. It's really not anything we've seen from the entire season from them. These guys are knockdown shooters, especially Beasley. I expect Cade in Game 3 to feed Malik and know that he's the guy. He came second place in 3 points throughout the entire NBA season for a reason. This guy is an absolute sharpshooter. So look for that in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, so Cade finished with just 3 assists, and I agree with you. I think it's playoff basketball. Like the mentalities have to change. Cade's our guy. He knew he had to score, and that's exactly what he did. At the same time, that also gets played into by how poorly Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley were playing, like you said. So they finished a combined 1 for 14 from 3-point range, which is like embarrassingly bad. As a team, we only shot 22%. So I think Cade's only 3 assists were a little bit like it's a little bit jaded because he might have been trying to facilitate more and people were just knocking down shots. But I agree with you. I think he was trying to hunt his shot, which he needs to do. I would like for him to continue passing and, like you said, maybe throw a curveball for Game 3 and get those guys involved. I'm not concerned with them. Tim Hardaway and Malik Beasley, those are 2 guys that like shooters are going to shoot. Like they're going to continue to get their shots up, and chances are they're going to catch back on and they're going to be fine. It is a little bit interesting because you look at the box scores from Game 1 and the box scores from Game 2, you kind of had the 2 different groups going off. Shout out Tobias in both games was very much like even keeled, if not a little bit better, like very good on both of those. But other than them, like we said, Tim Hardaway and Malik were fantastic in Game 1. They were shit in Game 2. You had Jalen Duren, who wasn't that good in Game 1. Jalen Duren had a really good Game 2, finished with 12 points and 13 rebounds. So like a double-double. Like I said, your starting center likely needs to have a double-double. So you're kind of doing a little bit of yo-yoing between who's going off and who's not going off. I would like to see everybody just kind of go off, and I'd like to see the cast we had go off for Game 2 do what they just did, and then just have our shooters not be absolute shit and go 1 for 14 from 3. And I think that would be really even. But the defense holding the Knicks to 94 points was fantastic. Outside of Jalen Brunson and Bridges, he finished with 19 points. Jalen Brunson had 37. Again, we'll get to him in a minute. We really held everyone else in check, and that is, around 8 to 10 points. And Tobias Harris only allowed 2 scores on him, 12 shot attempts against the Knicks. So that was fantastic. Paul Reed didn't allow a single score in the 6 attempts against him. He was a little bit up and down. He would do something great, and then he would dribble kind of in between people's legs and turn the ball over. And Karl Anthony Towns' 10 points was the second lowest of the entire season for him. So like, even though our 3-point shot wasn't that great, the defense stepped up, and that's how teams win. That's how we win in the playoffs, and you step up in ways that you need to in order to get the job done.
Yeah, it's what good teams do. I think it's a sign of a good team and a team with depth that we haven't had a complete team performance, you would say, from Game 1 to Game 2. Different guys are stepping up for sure, different guys are slumping. You really haven't had that complete performance yet. I think it is coming, and if it does, it could lead to another huge win in Detroit. But I think it is just a sign of the team that Trajan Langdon has built, that is it has veteran presence, it has young guys who can also perform extremely well when the lights are as bright as they are. So I think it's a testament to this team and the way that Trajan has built it. So I'm super pumped to see what they can do moving forward. Game 3, Game 4 in Detroit. I'm fucking pumped, and you're going to be there on Sunday, right?
Yeah, so I had tickets for Thursday. I went out as soon as they went on sale. Before they went on sale, we didn't know what days it were going to be. We knew it was going to be in Detroit, Game 3. We didn't know the day, the time. I bought my tickets, waited for them to come in, release the dates, found out that the game on Thursday was going to be the exact same time as the NFL draft. I love the NFL draft. I know you do too. I loved watching even outside the Lions, all the prospects, who they're going to, how they're going to fit with that team, stuff like that, what teams need. I eat all that shit up. So I didn't want to go, unfortunately, go to the Pistons game at the same time as the draft. So I sold those Thursday tickets, bought more tickets for Sunday. So I will be there on Sunday. I was really hoping the Pistons would win at least one of these games. So we wouldn't be looking for our first playoff win on Thursday, in which I would have then possibly missed that game and been like, oh shit, I missed the first playoff win. So I'm glad they got that out of the way. But yeah, you're right. They will be playing here in Detroit on Thursday. And I'm just praying, and I don't really have to pray. I know LCA is going to be a living nightmare for the Knicks. I mean, we saw it with how many records were set with the Lions. A little bit harder to set like noise records for the Tigers because it's outdoors, stuff like that. LCA is going to be absolutely insane. And I know, I mean, I think I sent you a clip right before we started this. AJ Hinch was just talking about it. All the Tigers players are going to be there. They have an off night. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be there. I know a whole number of the Lions are going to be there while the draft is going on. It's going to be insane on Thursday night.
Dude, it's going to be so cool. I mean, I'm going to be just locked into my TV the entire game. Absolutely not doing shit on Thursday. It's going to be sweet. And I guess, firstly, credit to you for, I mean, we're podcasters first and fans second, apparently, because, yeah, you switched around to go to Game 4 instead of Game 3 so that you could watch the draft. So, I mean, huge credit to you. I know you're doing it for the Gridiron Report, man, so thank you for that.
I bought my 4 tickets for Thursday, and then I decided I was going to sell them, and my wife said, do not buy the 4 tickets for Sunday until you sell your Thursday tickets. And I had already bought my Sunday tickets, so I had to combine 8 tickets to both games. And I just said, no, I won't do that. And then I sold them, and we were fine. We're going on Sunday. But yeah, I did it for you guys so we can do a full draft breakdown and not just the Lions, like I said, all of the NFL. So yeah, it's going to be great. I cannot wait to come in. Hopefully next week we're coming on and having an even better update for you guys. Hopefully when I'm there on Sunday, we're seeing the next step of a closeout of a series, maybe going up 3-1 on the series. So we'll come to you guys with that update. But we do have.
Remember my prediction too before we jump in. You know what did I say? Knicks are going to take Game 1. Pistons are going to come back. Storm take Game 2 at MSG. I said 2 dubs in at LCA. So we'll see. I'm 2 for 2 right now. I might be getting a little hot.
That is actually impressive. I couldn't remember if you said we were going to win Game 1 and lose Game 2, or vice versa, lose Game 1, win Game 2. So you're hot. I hope you continue to be hot when it comes to this and predicting this. So, like we said, we started this episode. We wanted this one to be a little bit more interactive. We did our NFL draft breakdown last week in order to give our guys out, put our guys out there, let you guys do some research on your own about who we think we should be taking, stuff like that, give you guys some time. So instead of doing another draft breakdown, we decided to open it up to the listeners, put it out on social media, send it, a few texts around and stuff. Got a mailbag kind of episode coming. So we have a few mailbag questions relating to the Pistons. We have a few relating to the Lions. So let's jump into one of our mailbag questions relating to the Pistons now.
Hey guys, Mark Smith here, just on my drive home from work. Just wanted to talk some Pistons basketball with you guys. Just with Jalen Brunson playing an unwatchable brand of basketball and basically representing everything that's wrong with the NBA and trying to draw fouls and not play the game the right way. How do you think Bickerstaff accounts for this, and what do we do differently? And do you think that the referees will call this game differently in Game 3 and Game 4 in Detroit? Again, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks, Mark Smith, for the call. Mark Smith, long time, first time. He was with me, actually, when we used to do our live watch parties of the 28-game losing streak for the Pistons last season. So thank you, Mark, for calling in. I know you're really passionate about this. Obviously, I am too. I have my own thoughts, but I'm just gonna let you go for a second and talk the Jalen Brunson stuff.
Let me rant. Let me rant real quick. Yeah, Jalen Brunson, he's becoming unwatchable, and it's sad, man. Because I mean, Brunson, he's a guy that I really admire, or at least I really did admire. I used to, decorated college athlete. Won 2 natties at Villanova. I really appreciate that, he is an undersized guard in NBA that, in today's day and age, you love size. You got guards that are 6'6". I'm looking at Cade. Love you, Cade. But yeah, so Brunson, he's not the prototype, right? And yet he continued to, develop his game throughout the years. And now he's become, I'll say it, probably like a top 10-ish guard in the NBA. I mean, I'm looking at, he finished 5th in, MVP voting last year. So he's developed his game, and he's a tremendous player now. And it makes it even more embarrassing that, like, he does the antics that he does. He's transformed his game into being one of the worst foul baiters in the entire league. And it's sickening. Like, he regularly seeks contact, which is fine, right? You seek out contact, but then he literally flops on the ground like a little bitch, after literally initiating the contact himself. And it's so frustrating to watch. It's like, unless you're literally a Knicks fan, even if you are a Knicks fan, like, how can you look at that product of basketball and say, oh yeah, I mean, that's my favorite player. Like, I love the way that he plays the game. He's literally foul baiting. He foul baits Oscar Thompson, multiple times, gets Thompson to foul out. He's literally counting on his fingers as he's on the ground. Dude, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you just look like a little whiny bitch. And really, for me, here's the thing. He is the antithesis of Cade Cunningham. He's the exact opposite. Brunson, he's unethical in every sense of the word as it relates to the game of basketball. I look at him, and it just in 2 games alone, it's grown from, oh, maybe foul baits, whatever, to like, this is as clear as day, like, that he's playing this product of basketball that, I mean, I have just really grown to hate over the last 2 games. So yeah, I mean, say what you want about this series. The Knicks are still, very much, I would say, in the driver's seat for this series. They are still the favorites, although I do think that Detroit's going to kick their ass in the Motor City these next 2 games. But right now, Knicks still stand as pretty heavy favorites in this series. But I do think that this product of basketball, you will never ever win by playing this product of basketball, Jalen Brunson. When the refs decide that they're not going to give you these calls, which we saw in game 2, they didn't give him a lot of the calls. He's whining, he's bitching. You got Tibbs over here bitching and moaning as well that the Knicks are not going to the free throw line as much as the Pistons. I think you're gonna lose games. You think that this shit's gonna stand when you play a team like Boston or a team like Cleveland. You're going to get your ass kicked. So yeah, probably ranted way too long about this, but I think it's almost an unwatchable product of basketball.
Yeah, I wanted to let you go because, I mean, you were cooking. I agree. He didn't like you said, he didn't used to play like this, which is really sad. He's become this parody of himself. When you think about the foul baiters, you think about James Harden, you think about Trae Young, you think about those 2 guys. It's Jalen Brunson has surpassed them by an embarrassing amount. It's like you said, he is undersized, so he's looking for ways to score, but he's so talented, he doesn't need to. There's one point in the first half, I think it was first quarter or second quarter in yesterday's game, he was the only one hitting 3-pointers. He hit back-to-back ones, maybe even back-to-back ones, and they kind of brought the Knicks from being a blowout in the first half. So he's so talented, he doesn't need to do it. And I think what's even more frustrating, like, the Knicks fans, like you said, Tibbs, their head coach, they were all talking about how, like, the officiating has to go both ways. And if you look at the free throws and stuff, Detroit shot 34 free throws last night. The Knicks only shot 19. But it's the quality and how those free throws were I don't want to even say earned, but like how they were called, that makes it makes it worse. Because you look at Jalen Brunson, he leads both teams in free throws with 20. He had 11 last night, and then in game 1 he had 10, so he had 20. He leads both teams with free throws in 21. But you're right, it's the classic thing that the NBA has already come out and said they're not going to tolerate anymore. And that's like, you going up to the 3-point line, you have no intention of trying to hit a 3-pointer. You're just trying to get that guy in the air and then jump into him, which they said they're not going to allow anymore. So it'll be interesting to see if the NBA is watching that as well and saying like, hey, this was kind of a mid-game thing. We couldn't really stop it mid-game, but now the reffing crew, you're aware of it. Don't let this be a thing in game 3. Like, we already decided as a league, don't let that be a thing. Make sure we're not calling that. Don't give them that kind of stuff. Or if they're going to be like, the Knicks they draw viewership. The New York fans love him. Let's, let it happen. I agree with you. It's embarrassing to watch as like a New York fan, as someone, like, honestly, I'm thinking of like, if I'm Jalen Brunson's dad, like watching my son play basketball like that, it's like emasculating, I think, to see him flopping around and playing games like that. Now, my small rant is over. I will say Detroit needs to be so much better at this. That's what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. I don't care if the refs are calling it, if they're not calling it. That's what he's going to do. Asar Thompson cannot fall for it. I don't care. Asar Thompson's defense is so important. You cannot foul out with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter because he's doing that bullshit. I know it's hard because he can make those. Like, if you don't jump, he's talented enough to make those. So I'm not saying I have the answer, but Asar Thompson has to be better, has to be smarter, and not let that happen. And then the final thing I will say, it's not nearly as bad, as Jalen Brunson. There were a few times in Monday night's game where Dennis Schroeder threw himself a little bit. He likes to play that line a little bit. There was one where he kind of went flying across the court, and Knicks fans were quick to point that one out.
That was so
not
funny.
nearly as bad, but it is. I mean, you got to call a spade a spade. He does it a little bit. And if you think you do it to his extent, you're okay. It's when it gets to the extreme that Jalen Brunson brings it to, is when it becomes unwatchable and it's bad for basketball. I think the entire country and nation, everyone saw that brand of basketball on the center stage Monday night, and I think a lot of people were not happy about it. So to Mark Smith's question, I personally think that like the NBA probably is going to chat with the refs a little bit and be like, hey, we made a stance on this. We didn't really catch it in game 2, game 3. Like let's be a little more lenient. Don't let that happen. Let them play through a lot of things. And then again, I think JB has to make that change defensively and make sure Asar doesn't fall for it, even if Jalen is doing it and the refs are calling it.
100%.
Okay, so we're gonna keep rolling here. We got a lot to get through, a lot of these mailbag questions. So we have another one related to the Pistons. Let's go ahead and play that one right now.
Hey boys, how's it going? Dre here. How awesome to see the Pistons in the playoffs right now. Just wanted to know your guys' thoughts and reflections on the most fun that you had watching them this year, and any key just points or turning points that you saw them have that led them to this point. Thanks, guys. Great pod as always. Bye.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, Dre, thanks so much for the voicemail, man. And yeah, I mean, what an awesome season that it's been, pretty much from start to finish. Coming from a team that I think their over under for win totals was somewhere in like the low to mid 20s, and to really just smash that and nearly double that, right? And to be in a position they are right now. I mean, I think we've all just been having so much fun watching this team. But I think, yeah, to answer your question, if there's one moment, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, it is the man himself, Cade Cunningham, and that buzzer beater 3 bank shot to beat Miami, to beat the Heat in Miami. I think that really just solidified Cade as like, yeah, he is here. I mean, that is his moment. I think that it's probably, he's obviously very young career. I think that was the biggest moment in his career to date. I am very hopeful that he's going to have much bigger moments in much bigger stages. Looking at the playoffs right now as an example, but yeah, that buzzer beater against Miami in a tie game to take down a pretty good team. I thought that was really incredible. And I think, yeah, right afterwards, like, I don't know exactly what he said after he hit the shot, but I think something along the lines of like, I'm here. Like he's throwing that up. He's like, yeah, Cade is here. So for me, yeah, that moment was freaking awesome, man.
That was same for me. Like, and I have another moment in my mind as well, but like that was, I agree with you. The moment that like Cade, that was one of the first moments. I think Cade was like actively winning us a game, like, was clutch and won us a game. There's been a few other times that some other players have, but I think that was one of the first times. And that's happened to us from Miami. Like Bam Adebayo hit a 3-pointer to beat us, I think, last season. Tyler Hero has literally ripped the heart out of my chest too many times to count as times winding down, whether that's in overtime or, in real regulation. I remember I was watching that game. I was already in bed watching it, and I swear to God, I jumped up out of bed and was screaming. That was fantastic. So I agree with you. I think that was a time or point in the season that like turned it for me. But one of the best times, in my opinion, for this season was the game winner that Jaden Ivey had back the day after Christmas, December 26th, against the Sacramento Kings. So we were down, I think we were down 19 points at one point, and then we kind of fought our way back against the Kings in the fourth quarter. We were down by 3, and Jaden Ivey got the ball in the right corner, went down, did a little step back, got fouled on the 3-point shot by De'Aaron Fox, hit the 3-point shot, and we ended up winning. So it was a 4-point buzzer beater to win the game as the time expired. So it was a combination of like the coming back from 19, also Jaden Ivey, who a decent amount of questions were coming into the season, whether he could play alongside Cade, whether he can be that next go-to guy. If you recall from the beginning of the season, he was actually becoming that clutch guy we went to. Like as good as Cade was, it was really Jaden Ivey who was, he had another game winner this season before he got hurt as well, from a mid-range. So like Jaden Ivey was becoming that guy, and a 4 points buzzer beater to win a game being down by 3 is fantastic. It's insane. So that was my moment, and I think it was just a good kind of, Cade gets all the credit, rightfully so, but Jaden Ivey getting the day after Christmas, you can't beat that.
Love that, dude. And yeah. The second JI comes back, it's probably gonna be next year. We're gonna be watching eyes glued because he's must see TV.
He's on the playoff roster. So just saying, depending on how far we go, he's on. He was not left off the playoff roster. He is shooting and he is running on the court. Who knows? I'm with you. There's no chance he comes back this season. But if we make the finals, maybe he's coming. I don't know.
Let's win a few more games first.
I can know. All right, so we have one more basketball mailbag question. So let's get to that now, and then we have a few surrounding the Lions and the draft, and we'll kind of wrap up with those. So let's get to this one right now.
Hey guys, Matt Qualls, big fan. Wanted to drop in a topic for you guys that I think might be interesting. I know you guys do a lot of Detroit sports, but I'm a big NBA playoffs guy, and obviously one thing right now that is going on is the legacy of LeBron James. And I would actually like to bring in the discussion of the Steph Curry versus LeBron James, and if in fact Steph Curry gets further than LeBron and eliminates LeBron, I'd like to know what you guys think about Steph and LeBron in the all-time rankings. LeBron James is 1-3 against Steph Curry in the playoffs throughout his career. Steph has never left. Steph has won 4 championships throughout the LeBron era. And all this talk is about LeBron James, who personally I don't think was the best player on his team this year with Anthony Davis and with Luka Doncic. So they're talking about all this pressure on LeBron James, this, that, and the other, when he's not even the best player on his team currently. And you take a look at the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, obviously the best player on the team. He still carries the load. He's still taking the last shot. He is still doing all of these things at 35 years old at the point guard position, a less dominant position on top of that. So would like to hear your guys' thoughts, maybe get a discussion going in regards to that, because I think people should be more open to the fact that if, in fact, Steph Curry, 1, eliminated LeBron James, or 2, won another championship, how close are they? Is Steph Curry potentially passing LeBron James? And I think a lot of people say no because of the height and things of that nature. But in true reality, who changed the game in comparison to the other? I have to go with Steph Curry. Steph Curry changed the game and the longevity of the game in many ways. LeBron James is just kind of a bully going down the lane. Obviously, he's got his own skill set, things of that nature. But, yeah, as you can see, I can rant about this for hours. But looking forward to maybe hearing it on the pod. So have a good one, boys. Peace.
Awesome, Matt. Hey, man. First and foremost, really appreciate the voicemail. Seems like you definitely have quite a bit of passion for this topic. Yeah, Steph versus LeBron. I love it because, I mean, how often are we hearing, oh, LeBron versus Jordan? That's really the only narrative that I hear often. So I really like this little wrinkle, bringing Steph into it. Of course, two guys that are very much still in their careers and still kind of in their primes. I know it's tough to say that about LeBron at age 40, but he's still playing at a very high level. Steph obviously playing at a very high level still at age 36. What is he, 37? So yeah, I really like the topic. You mentioned all-time rankings, and that Steph has 4 championships. I do think that if Steph and the Warriors were to get another championship this season, I do think that it would bring, in my opinion, Steph a lot closer to LeBron. I do think that there is still a decent gap between the two players right now, and it's not to say that it's because LeBron has had no help. LeBron has had an incredible supporting cast throughout his entire career, so I mean that's definitely part of it. Steph also has had a pretty good supporting cast with guys like KD coming and joining the Warriors. I do think there is something to be said about a guy who stays on one team his entire career. I love seeing guys like that. I think that it adds to their legacy, which I really like. And we're at the end of the day, we're talking about legacies of 2 extremely influential and really superlative players in the NBA. Two of the best to ever do it, right? So yeah, I do think if Steph were to get another ring, which it's going to be tough. I think that the team probably just doesn't have enough juice this season, especially given how many really good teams there are in the West, and then of course two pretty good teams in the East as well. So the path is going to be tough. I do think if Steph sticks around, maybe they add another player in the offseason. I do think that he still has a lot left in the tank, and he could win another championship. And at that point, I do think we have a conversation of Steph versus LeBron. But yeah, at this rate. Probably not yet, but I do love your point about Steph changing the game with a 3-point shot. I mean, LeBron bit more of a bully ball a player. I think LeBron can do a little bit of everything as well. But yeah, Steph, there's just no denying it. The game has forever changed, and that's because of Steph Curry.
They're so different in so many ways, but like you said, so similar as they get further on in their career. I agree, Matt, with that. Steph truly changed the game. Like there's like Stephen Curry changed how a whole generation of kids played the game of basketball with this 3-point shooting. Is him and I think Dame also deserves a little bit of credit there with doing logo shots, and there's a whole number. I mean, I feel like LaMelo Ball was raised in that generation, and LaMelo Ball is one of the first to make it to the league playing like that, like pulling up from crazy range and hitting and at a high rate. So they're so different. Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, they both have been so impactful on the game. They're just LeBron James is without a doubt the best athlete that we've seen in the last like 50 years, especially in the NBA. Like he's doing, like you said, the bully ball, but also he's 6'7", 240 or something. Like he's able to get what he wants whenever he wants on the NBA court because he is such an elite athlete. I think Steph Curry is 100% the better tactician in basketball. He's, in my opinion, the best shooter in history of the college of NBA. So I think like they're so good in both their own rights. I do agree with Kyle in that like LeBron is the discussion still is LeBron or MJ, just based on how LeBron has been dominant just in general for so long. But you throw another win, another championship in for Steph, I think there's definitely, and by doing so, like you mentioned, Matt, is going to be taking out LeBron on the way. Yeah. I think there definitely is a conversation that could be had. I personally don't think either one of them are going to get to the championship this year. So the Lakers are currently down 1-0 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Golden State Warriors do have a 1-0 lead on the second seed Houston Rockets. I don't think either one of those teams, though, are getting past the Thunder or the Clippers or the Nuggets, whoever kind of comes out of that top bracket there. So I don't think either one of them are going to get it done this year. But I think just like it's so hard because Steph is elite shooting and so good at that and so smart at basketball. But LeBron is just, like Kyle said, he plays bully ball. He gets what he wants because he is the best athlete that we've seen in the last 50 years. I think personally, if they were going to make that move from LeBron being number one over MJ, he's got to win another championship, or else he's going to kind of forever be at that number two and just start breaking all these records because of his longevity doing that at 40 years old. But yeah, it's a great wrinkle in the argument. I always love when you're talking, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and then someone's like, what about Kobe? Or what about Steph Curry and stuff? And it's always fun to throw those guys in there. So thank you for the call. It sounds like you should start a podcast on your own with your insight in the NBA there. So, but let's keep it moving. Let's jump over to our final two mailbag questions. So these are both jumping over to the NFL. Obviously, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, we have the NFL draft tomorrow, Thursday, in Green Bay. I was doing some of the numbers today. I'm putting out an article for Champaign Athletics here probably later this week. If you recall, the Detroit Lions and Detroit in general had a record-breaking 700,000 attendees at the last year's draft. Cal, quick guess before we get into these mailbag questions. How many people do you think are expected to be in Green Bay for the draft this year? We had 700,000.
Bro, it's less than that. Yeah, fuck Green Bay. 300,000.
The NFL is expecting 240,000 attendees throughout the weekend for the NFL draft in Green Bay. That is just, it's so cute for Green Bay to think like they can put up those numbers. And I know Green Bay is a smaller city, and it's basically
also it's Green Bay. It's in the middle of nowhere.
It's in the middle of the state. Lambeau Field is in the middle of a neighborhood. If you haven't looked it up, like I'm not joking, it's literally in the middle of a neighborhood. So go look that up. It's pretty funny. But I just thought that was like, no one will ever outdo what Detroit did as we get to Thursday. And then next week we'll talk about what the results for the draft were and stuff like that. But for now, let's get into our first mailbag question for the NFL and for the Lions.
Hey, gentlemen, it's Keith D. from Ann Arbor. Just wanted to comment on the NFL draft. I agree with most of your picks, focusing on the D-line and the O-line as a priority this year. I have seen some stuff on Twitter, too, talking about potentially going with the skill player. It'd be interesting from the standpoint of, looking within the division. Ben Johnson, he knows our skill players, so maybe we add something there with maybe a little twist to throw off our division rival Chicago Bears. I did see something also about a tight end, which kind of makes me sick to my stomach. I really don't think we need a tight end. I think we've got some good depth there. But I wouldn't mind seeing something with the wide receiver. And then Kyle mentioned something about JMO getting an extension. I don't remember seeing that. Certainly possible that that happened, but I didn't recall that. But you're right. If that was the case, that does add a very strange twist that we'd be looking to package him up. Nonetheless, looking forward to next week's episode and hearing how the draft ends up next week. See ya.
Mhm.
Thank you, Keith, for the call and jumping over to the Lions and the NFL draft. It's a great point because I didn't really think about it, that Ben Johnson knows all of our skill position players. He knows what they can do, what they're really good at, what they maybe aren't so good at, what they're used to. So having a new skill position player introduced to this offense might add a little bit, like you said, just a little bit of mystery to Ben Johnson and change it up a little bit, maybe give us a little bit of an edge. And there is a lot of smoke. We talked about it last week with the Matthew Golden rumors. He came in, the Lions invited him in for a pre-draft interview. That obviously then spurred a whole uproar online about Jameson Williams. We talked about it in last week's episode. That's what Keith was referring to, so you can go back and listen to that. Yeah, I think we might have mentioned that JMO with an extension. What we meant was that the Lions picked up the fifth-year option on JMO's contract, so we didn't give him that extension. We're giving him kind of one more year to probably play a full season without any suspensions and stuff like that. But then also to see, he just had his first 1,000-yard season, to see like what we have in him, if he can replicate that, if it was kind of a one-hit wonder, if that was Ben Johnson, or if that was Jameson Williams. So that's why we picked up the fifth-year option rather than giving him the extension. I think it is crazy that all this rumor stuff is coming out. I want to honestly just put it to bed. There was stuff online today about whether Jameson Williams unfollowed the Lions on Twitter and stuff, and then it turned out he never followed them in the first place, so it kind of was all irrelevant. I know Matthew Golden did have a great 40 time today, unofficial, but like I'm not wasting a first round or probably second round, wherever you're going to take Matthew Golden pick, just to get younger on Jameson Williams, especially this year. Like if you want to do it next year while we still have him for another year, and then you want to trade JMO because you maybe didn't perform this upcoming season, you don't want to give him that extension, and then you want to basically swap him out for a younger, gadget, explosive, take the top off receiver, I'm all for that, but not in this draft. Like there's no one that's really that I'm in love with. So like I want to put those trading Jameson Williams rumors to bed. We went through like what a possible package was going to be last week. It was terrible. So go back again and listen to that if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I'll note before I throw it over to Kyle, if we take a tight end, I have a point here that I'm going to bring up on a future episode of like, of these young guys that we have, if we had to let one of them go, who would it be and not pay? And my answer, I'll give it now, but we can dive into it more in a future show, would be Sam Laporta, just because
Come on, man.
I think there's, we don't have to get into it now, but I think it'd be Sam Laporta. I don't want us to do that. I don't want us to take a tight end. So if we did take a tight end, I think that would be just crazy. But I think, like we said last week, and Keith, like you said in your call, I think you have to go in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, maybe defensive secondary. But I think we probably, at least for the first 2 rounds, will stay away from a skilled position player.
Yeah, and you're certainly not getting rid of Laporta when he's just getting on year 3 of his rookie contract, and he's so good in the run block game and also really superlative in the passing game as well. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah, Keith, your point. I want to address your point on Ben Johnson and knowing the Detroit Lions offense. I think that we cannot be in the business of making moves based on one coach. Or yeah, he's in our division, but yeah, I'm not making a move to upgrade at wide receiver based on what the Bears are doing. I'm just I just don't think that would be good. So just wanted to say that. And then yeah, Tyler, I think you hit on it really well, man. But yeah, skill position with the first round pick, with the second round pick, I just don't see it. I don't see that as being positions of need at all. We saw it last year. The offense was one of the best in the game. And yeah, we're losing our offensive coordinator, who is very, very good at play calling. But I see, at the very least, or at the very most, I see, just maybe a minor step back in production from the offense. Really, it's not the problem. Our offense is going to be fantastic, and the defense is really where we have gaps. So I would love to fill those holes with those first and second round picks. Looking at that edge position, maybe defensive tackle. If anything, yeah, I would love for them to target offensive tackles. We talked about it on last week's episode, but or offensive guards as well. But yeah, Certainly not looking at Golden. I think he's a really good player. Tyler, you mentioned his 40 time. I think he clocked in at like a 4.29, 4.28, something like that. So yeah, he's fast as hell. He's kind of small though. I think he's 5'11", and certainly under 200 pounds. I think he's probably about 180, 190. So yeah, I just don't see it as being a good pick given our positions and needs right now.
All right, let's get to our final mailbag question, again relating to the Lions right now.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? Hey, what's up, Ty? This is Mitch out here in Las Vegas. So thank you guys for giving me that Detroit sports outlet for the West Coast fans. So first off, I just want to say you guys are doing a great job, and I think you were naturals on the mic, so keep it up. I look forward to seeing, how far this pod can go and how much it can grow. So keep it rolling. All right, we'll get into it. I have a question for you guys about the Lions. So I just wanted to know if you think there is any realness or if it's all just smoke about the Matthew Golden visit. So, maybe who will be taken there at the end of the first round of the draft this week. I'm thinking, I was looking at those odds. It's pretty heavy favored towards that other edge rusher aside from Aiden. But I've seen a couple times on Twitter, that there is, there's clearly, there's going to be an odd man out here with J-Mo. I'll try to speed this up, or with somebody with all these extensions coming up. And I just want to know what your opinion is on, with all these extensions rolling, if we're going to be able to afford everybody, if J-Mo's going to get a fifth-year option, or is there a possibility we need to ship him and maybe find his replacement in the draft here? So let me know what you guys think there. Thanks for taking the voicemail. See ya.
Hey, Mitch from Vegas, man. Hey, we really appreciate your voicemail and for, listening, clocking in from the West Coast. And really, that's just a quick sidebar. That's really a goal for Tyler and myself, is to bring Detroit sports content, not only just to people living in Detroit, but to everyone across the U.S. So yeah, thanks so much for listening. And for the voicemail, I know we did talk about this just in our last voicemail, but any final words on this one? Yeah, who's the odd man out in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't listen to that voicemail before we started, so it's kind of funny that I mentioned this. And in a sense, you flamed me a little bit that, like, I think the odd man out is not going to be in the receiver room. I think nothing's happening now. I think there are a lot of guys to pay. We talked about the salary cap; it goes up every single year, so I'm not like worried about money whatsoever. The money will be there to pay guys. Like, we'll find the money. I'm not worried about it. If there is going to be an odd man out, I think Jamison Williams could be that odd man out, because I love the kid. I don't think he's a bad kid or anything, but he hasn't played a full season based on his suspensions in his career. That definitely has to be weighed somewhere. And at the other side is like that position he plays, the position of like a smaller, extremely fast, take the top off receiver, I think can translate pretty well from college ball into the NFL. If we're right there, our window's still there, kind of closing a little bit, but you need to get younger, or excuse me, you need to get cheaper and still maintain the talent. I think that could be an option next year this time, if we do want to try and get off of Jamison Williams, not pay him that contract, trade him out, and then go for that replacement, that young replacement that's coming out of the college game that can kind of translate, jump in real quick, do nothing else but take the top off. I think that will translate well from college to the NFL, so you can do that really well. I think it probably is JMO, and then again, I do think it might be Sam Laporta, just because I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I don't think it's Matthew Golden this season. I think, or this draft, I think all that is just smoke. I don't really think there's much fire there. Good on the Lions front office for keeping people guessing. But I think maybe next year it could be Jamison Williams, just because that's probably the easiest position to replace right then and there, and not really miss a beat.
So question for you then, Tyler. I guess a couple different things that could happen then, right? They could pick up JMO's fifth-year option if they haven't already, and in that case, he still plays for the team for another year. And then what? Do you just let him walk in free agency afterwards, or do you try to maybe get some value for him in a trade this year, knowing that you might let him walk for free next year. I don't know if you have one way or another there. Again, we talked about not wanting to use that first round pick on a wide receiver, but just wanted to throw that out there. What do you do?
Yeah, I think you do have to take a receiver at some point in this draft because we are a little bit light. I'm definitely not trading him now, though, because our window is now, like, who knows when our window is going to be. And again, we're not going to waste a high round pick on a receiver, so I'm not trading him now. I would rather have him walk for nothing than miss on a window now because we traded him away. I mean, I would rather even we do the 5th year option and then we franchise him, dig deeper into the pockets and franchise him for a year and figure out where our window's at after the year after next year and then see what we want to do. I think that's where I'm sitting with that.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'm aligned with that. Just wanted to see your thoughts.
All right. So thank you guys for sending in the voicemails and being interactive with this week's kind of mailbag episode. We really appreciate it. We love having that conversation. Kyle and I can sit here and talk to each other all day long, but getting you guys involved is a lot of fun. So we will probably be doing every one of those mailbag episodes every now and again in between some different seasons and stuff. So stay tuned for the next one. Let's wrap up here. We have one more thing, Michigan State college basketball wise. So Michigan State got another transfer. They got senior Trey Fort transferring from the Stanford Bulldog, 6'4", 200-pound shooting guard, essentially. Really, we talked about last week or a few weeks ago when we talked about Michigan State's roster. They were missing still a starting shooting guard and a backup point guard, essentially. They at least filled one of those holes with Trey Ford. So last year with the Stanford Bulldogs, he averaged 14.6 points, 4 rebounds, 1.4 assists, and shot from the field 44.8%. So really just going to slide right into that two-guard position, starting two-guard position, and be a three-point guy. So we already talked about Caleb Glenn, who can come in and hit about 40% from that 3-4 position. Trey Fort is coming in, going to slide into that 2 position, shooting 38% from 3-point range. So now you have 2 guys that, like, we're not sure if Caleb Glenn's going to crack that starting lineup, but you have Trey Fort that you can insert and be at least a threat from the perimeter there. Interesting, his career so far. He started at I believe a JUCO, and then played a year at Mississippi State. So got a year kind of in the SEC with the big boys. With Mississippi State, just as a junior, he averaged 5 points, but did shoot 35% from 3. So even after against higher competition, he still was getting out some good shots. And then last year transferred back down to Stanford and shot 38%. So really great find by Tom Izzo to get a starting 2-guard. I'm hoping we're not done. Like we said, we could still use a backup point guard, could still maybe use 1 or 2 more pieces, but at least, we're not coming away empty-handed. I like this transfer portal season better than I did last season.
Yeah, I think it's a good pickup for sure. Yeah, and I'm just looking at Trey Fort's picture right now. I mean, the guy could probably pass for a 30-year-old. He probably looks older than I am. So I do think that it's going to be nice to have some experience and some hopefully veteran leadership on a team. And yeah, I do think there's probably something to be said about his 3-point shooting percentage, and we probably would expect a bit of a dip coming from a mid-major to the Big Ten. And I know I probably said that in a text when you broke the news to us, and I think you sent me back a gif of someone raining on a parade. So don't want to be that guy, but I do think we do have to level our expectations just a little bit, and really just looking at his numbers. I mean, he shot 35% at Mississippi State, 38% from 3 at Stanford. So yeah, even if it dips a little bit, it's still really, really great production in a team that desperately needs some production from the 3-point shot. So yeah, overall, Tom, another really nice pickup. Yeah,
so he's a 6-year senior, 24 years old. So for all the shit Spartan fans gave Hunter Dickinson and Michigan fans for being so old, we kind of can't give him that now. But just real quick before we finish up with Grid of the Week, 3-point field goals made for Michigan State in 2025 was, as a team, 197 3-pointers. Trey Fort last year made 80 3-pointers. Caleb Glenn made 48 3-pointers. So together, Caleb Glenn and Trey Fort made 128 3-pointers. That was almost, it's much more than half of Michigan State as an entire team last season. So if nothing else, yeah, we're plugging in some guys that can and are not afraid to get the ball up. So we'll see. Like we said, hopefully maybe 1 or 2 more pieces. Still have a few guys out there on the market that may or may not be entering the draft, coming back to college. We'll see if, over the next few weeks. I think they have to like June 15th, I think, to pull out of the NBA draft. So we'll have some more news coming up here shortly. All right. Been a fairly long episode. Let's wrap up with Grit of the Week. You want to kick us off first?
Yeah, let's do it. I didn't see anything from you in the show notes, and I think I don't even know if I put mine in the show notes or not. So yeah, I don't know if we're going with the same guy. We certainly might be. my grid of the week, it's pretty easy for me. It is Cade Cunningham. I loved what he did. I mean, obviously, game one, we said he was, maybe a little bit off, 8 of 21, still dropped 21 points, 6 boards, and 12 assists in game one in his first playoff start. And really what I loved seeing was a bounce back game. Not that game one was a bad game by any stretch, but in game two, when it mattered most, this is like we said, a must win game. And Cade comes out and he just asserts his dominance and he scores 33 points. Also really big on the defensive glass, 12 rebounds, 11 of them on defense, 3 assists, 2 steals as well. And really what we saw, 54 combined points in his first 2 playoff games at MSG. Really tough environment to play in. I think that, he definitely showed quite a bit of grit, and I'm so excited to see what he can do in front of a home crowd in Detroit on Thursday and on Sunday. But yeah, for me, Cade Cunningham, man, grit of the week, and keep it up, kid.
Yeah, he's an easy one to go with. I definitely had him in mind. I figured you would go with him, so I decided to zig a little bit instead of zagging. And I'm going to go with Tobias Harris as my grid of the week.
Yeah.
I think Tobias, like we mentioned when we were talking about the Pistons, came from Philadelphia, was kind of, shipped off from Philadelphia in a bad way, and people, they wanted him out. They wanted Paul George in there. They were really criticizing him. Came here and wanted to be here. Loves Detroit and was really a nice veteran presence all season. Came on a little slow, but towards the end of the season was a nice veteran presence. He came in the playoffs this season, the first two games, and has been exactly what we needed him to be. So again, first game one, he finished with 25 points and 6 rebounds in 40 minutes, 4 for 5 from 3. So putting up the really good minutes there. And then in the win in game 2, similar, not as great of a game, but still a really even-keeled game, 13 rebounds, 10 on the defensive side. So adding to Cade's 11 defensive rebounds, he was just giving an even 43 minutes. So he played even more minutes game 2. He's been exactly the veteran presence that we need. And I think he just deserves some love for being shipped out of Philadelphia and coming here and, coming here with an open mind and being exactly what we need for this team.
Love that pick. Yeah, Tobias, so awesome. Both really all season, but certainly both playoff games. He absolutely deserves it too, man. Keep it up, Tobias Harris.
All right, so that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. You can find Kyle on Twitter at Kyle_Marino. You can find me on Twitter at Dutton_Tyler and at both Piston Powered and Champaign Athletics. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram at Gridiron Report and on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1. You can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail, as we did in today's episode with some mailbag questions for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That number is 313-306-7939. And then finally, if you like this episode, you want to hear more Detroit sports stuff from us, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars and leave us a review saying how much you enjoyed it. And then continue to download. Again, we said this every week. Downloading is how we track our numbers and see where we're getting all our listeners and stuff from. So please continue to do that and support us so we can keep giving you guys content.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar and let's go Pistons.
A journey roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.